ফিনান্সিয়াল ম্যানেজমেন্ট, ট্যাক্সেশন, ফিনান্সিয়াল অ্যাকাউন্টিং, রিপোর্টিং, এগুলোর কিছু তাত্ত্বিক এবং ব্যবহারিক একটা বিষয় আছে। হয়তো না হলেও ডাকলাম, কিন্তু অনেকের আমার জন্য অসুবিধা হবে। চিটাগাং থেকে যারা, ঢাকার বাইরে যারা, ওনাদের জন্য আবার কষ্টকর হবে। এটা আলাপ করে করব। আর আমার ক্লাসরুমে হয়তো ওই ইয়েটা হবে না যে এটাকে এমন ভাবে প্রেজেন্ট করা যে অনলাইন হচ্ছে আবার ফিজিক্যাল হচ্ছে, এরকম মনে হয় ওইভাবে এখন পর্যন্ত আমাদের ইয়ে হয়ে উঠেনি। বাট আমি এটা একটু আমাদের আইটির সাথে আলাপ করে নিব, কারণ আই অলসো থিঙ্ক দ্য ডিস্টেন্স লার্নিং স্টুডেন্টস, মাই ডিয়ার ইউ, যারা দূরে লেখাপড়া করতেছে, ওদের ইয়েটা চিটাগাং থেকে অনেক ছাত্র আমাকে ফোন করে, ঢাকার বাইরে মেঘনা, মুন্সিগঞ্জ, এনজিও, বিভিন্ন ইয়েতে ওনারা কাজ করেন, ইয়ে থেকেও ফোন করে।
এখন আমাদের যে স্যার এলজিএসপি অডিট চলতেছে, এই জন্য স্যার অনেকেই ঢাকার বাইরে, যারা ঢাকার বাইরে থেকে কোর্স করতেছে
এই জন্য
ইউপি অডিটের জন্য।
ইয়া, থ্যাংক ইউ। ইয়া, আমাদের, হ্যাঁ, যেটা বলতে চাইলাম আমি, যদি if I think that greater interest of the students also fill up, we will go that those approach. এজন্য আগে বলবো না, দেখি আইটির সাথে এমন যদি হয় যে অনলাইনেও ওই ক্লাসটা ফোকাস করা যাবে, বিশেষ করে ডায়াসটাও যদি টিচারের দেওয়া যায়, যেখানে পরীক্ষা নিলেন ওই যে আমার ভেনুতে, তো ওই জন্য ওই তাহলে হয়তো যাবো। তাছাড়া আমার উচিত হবে না বা ইনস্টিটিউটও আমরা ওইদিকে না যাই, যেটা ছাত্ররা পাবে না। আর এমনি বললি যে আমরা সাধারণত অ্যাজ ইউজুয়াল উই থট আর অলসো কি বলা যায় যে প্রিভিয়াসলি যে অনলাইন কি ক্লাস, কিন্তু দেখেন এখানে যখন মাসুদ খান স্যারের মতো স্যাররা ক্লাস নেন, আজকে আমাদের সিও স্যারও নেবেন, তো এরকম আবার যে অভিনয় বাবু, তো মানে একদম অত্যন্ত চরম মাপের একজন পোটেনশিয়াল এডুকেশনালিস্ট, জানেন না উনি, সব জানেন বিজনেসের। তো যেটা বলার হলো যে অনলাইনে যখন ক্লাস নেন ওনারা, দেখেন আপনি কাছেই পেয়ে যাচ্ছেন, সামনে যখন হয় ওটা ফিজিক্যালি ইয়ে। আমি বলতে চাচ্ছি যে আমাদের যেটা, এটাও মনে হয় অতটা কি বলা যায় যে নট ইফেক্টিভ সিচুয়েশনে নাই, ইনইফেক্টিভ সিচুয়েশনে নাই, যতদূর হয় এটাতে চালু আছে এবং এটা ছাত্রদের কাছে হয়তো এক্সপেক্টেড পর্যায়ে আছে। বাট স্কুল কলেজ না হলে তো আর লেখাপড়া হতো না। কিন্তু জামানা পাল্টে গিয়েছে, এখন তো পৃথিবী হাতের মুঠো, একটা মোবাইল ইয়েতে ইউর অ্যাকচুয়ালি নন, কাজে ব্যাখ্যায় না যাই। আর যেটা বলতে চাচ্ছি যে জানাবো আমি, আর ওই শুক্রবার যেটা আমরা অলরেডি দিয়ে দিলাম, একটু কষ্ট করে, তাও 8টা ক্লাস আগালো, অসুবিধা কি, খারাপ, যতদূর পারা যায়। পরীক্ষার পরে সাধারণত ক্লাস হয় না, পরীক্ষার পরে ওটা নর্মসও নাই, কোথাও নাই, এজন্য যতদূর পারবো ইয়ে করবো। বাট এমন যদি হয় যে পরীক্ষার আগে, হয়তো ছুটি থাকে অনেকে, পরীক্ষার আগে যদি ছুটি পাওয়া যায় আমাকে বলবেন, আমি ওই আপনারা যা যা চাবেন ওই ক্লাসগুলো আমি অ্যারেঞ্জ করে দিই, যার যার ক্লাস চাবে। যেমন পরীক্ষার 3 দিন আগে সব ছুটিতে ছাত্ররা, এরকম যদি সিচুয়েশন হয়, 2 দিন আগে ছেড়ে দেবো, 2-3 দিন এমন ভাবে দিলাম অনলাইনে দিলাম, এইসব টিচারে যেভাবে হোক আই উইল অলসো, কি বলা যায় যে এগ্রি আপন দেন, ওনাদেরকে আমি ইয়ে করবো। আমার মনে হয় স্যারকে একটু ফোন করি, দেখি স্যার তো ইয়াতে ছিলেন,
জয়েন করছে স্যার, স্যার জয়েন করছে।
হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে, অসুবিধা নাই, আমি শেষের দিকে। আদাব স্যার। So thank you my dear Hayat, including all our topmost respected our sir is here, আমাদের শ্রদ্ধেয় অভিভাবক। দেখেন এখনো অফিসে আছে, আমি তো চলে আসছি। যেটা বলতে চাচ্ছি যে প্লিজ জয়েন দ্য ক্লাস, যে ক্লাসটা এফেক্টিভ হোক, আর সিনাপসিসটা কাছে রাখেন। আমরা ওই যে যা বললাম যে স্যারকে রিকোয়েস্ট করে যতদূর পারি পরীক্ষার আগ পর্যন্ত আমরা নিয়ে আসবো। And it is questionnaire, solution session, third part discussion session. So, of course, you join here. My beliefness, or I think that you will also make sure you response to আপনারা আপনাদের সরব থাকবেন মন দিয়ে ইয়ে করবেন আর হায়াত শেখ হায়াত যদি কিছু বলার থাকে আর না হলে আমি বিদায় নিব স্যারকে হ্যান্ড ওভার
ঠিক আছে আর কিছু বলেন না আপাতত
এই
ইনশাআল্লাহ
গেল আর আই এম
থ্যাংক
হিয়ার
ইউ
মাই ডিয়ার
ইনফরমেশন দেওয়ার জন্য
ইমেল মি or ask me your senior students and our support as always for you and it will be no problem যেভাবে আছি আমরা করব হ্যাঁ সবাইকে ধন্যবাদ আর অভিজিৎ বাবু তারপর অন্যান্য আদাব থাকলো আর ক্লাস করি আর আমি স্যারের দিকে এখন মুভ করবো হ্যাঁ সিনপসিসটা কাছে রেখেন আর রেসপন্স করেন আর যেটা বলতে চাইলাম যে স্যার যেভাবে নেন এভাবে আর স্যারের সাথে যখন ওপেন ডিসকাশনে যাবেন তখন ইউ উইল অলসো আস্ক আদার ম্যাটার্স So thank you very much, sir. I am your Halim, sir, and you may kindly come in front in the videos and just to start a valuable session, sir, please. Sir, আপনি দয়া করে শুরু করুন আর আমি বিদায় নিই, স্যার, প্লিজ। Thank you. আল্লাহ হাফেজ। আদাব, স্যার, আদাব। স্যার আপনি দয়া করে শুরু করতে পারেন আমি বিদায় নিয়ে নিয়েছি জি আদাব
ওকে থ্যাংক ইউ আদাব okay good evening to everybody welcome to this session
good evening sir
I had another session with one group not you maybe
today is the first session sir
yes okay all right then I tried to distribute one handout to you. I believe you have got it. And we'll discuss the issues mentioned in the handout. We have set some problems and the number one problem we will see here is that it's relating to pension, gratuity, lump grant and provident fund balance. This is with regard to an employee of the government. If you go through this problem, you will see a government officer in the rank of a secretary retired in November 2018. Soon after his retirement, he sought advice of a chartered accountant and gave details of his salary to the chartered accountant. His basic salary was 82,000 per month. He had other emoluments like house rent allowance, medical allowance, and he availed of a car. Calculate his leave encashment, that is lump grant, pension per month, and gratuity amount. He had outstanding balance for car loan amounting to taka 8 lakhs. Maybe he took a loan of taka 25 lakhs or 30 lakhs, but he paid it off on a monthly basis. But now the outstanding figure is taka 8 lakh. He sought advice with regard to the best investment option. That means where he has to invest, which will be the most profitable option of investment for him. That is the advice he is looking for. How much could he invest in Sanchay Patra? This is also a question. His PF balance was taka 1 crore, which he also drew. That means he withdrew that amount from the provident fund. But this figure is more than the amount consisting of the contribution and interest accrued thereon by taka 10 lakh. That means the amount which he got was not equivalent to the amount of his contribution to the provident fund and the interest accrued thereon. Now he has sought your advice as a chartered accountant or as a practicing chartered accountant. He has sought your advice. So there are some points here which you have to address, and one by one you can address the problem. First of all, you have to find out the lump grant. That means what would be the lump grant? There is a leave encashment for him. And you have been given some clues here, indications, which is his basic salary, last basic salary has been given to you, which is 82,000 taka per month. And on that basis, you can find out the lump grant. And whether this lump grant would be taxable or not, that is also a question. So the government officer, he will be entitled to a lump grant of taka 82,000 times 18 months. That means you have to multiply 82,000 by 18, and you will find a figure which is the lump grant allowed to the government officer. And this is not taxable. So it will not be included in the total income of the SSC. And then you have to find out the pension money and also the gratuity amount. So what would be the pension figure per month? The pension figure you have to calculate with this basic salary, 82,000 taka. And first of all, you have to calculate 90% of the basic salary. I believe if you multiply 82,000 times 0.9, you will find a figure that is 73,800, possibly 73,800. This you have arrived at by multiplying 82,000 times 0.9, 73,800. So you have to divide it by 2, which is 36,900. And this 36,900 is the figure of pension money for the government servant. So you will be receiving 36,900 as monthly pension money. However, a medical allowance of taka 1,500 would be added to it. And after 1 year, you will also be entitled to an increment of 5% as inflation. So the basic pension money would be 36,900. And you have got another 36,900 in your hand, which will be multiplied by 230. So if you multiply 36,900 by 230, you will get an amount which is, I believe, 84,87,000. And that is the gratuity money you will be having. And that is a one-time payment. That means you have to receive it for the first time and for the last time as well. So you can invest that amount in saving certificates or in any other form, whatever you want to. But as a chartered accountant, you have to advise the client in such a way so that he is not deprived of the maximum amount of profit or interest. So you can suggest him to buy pension Sanchaya Patra or family Sanchaya Patra or 3 monthly profit basis Sanchaya Patra, which will be of benefit to the employee and which will be secure. Because if he invests in shares or securities, other securities, that could not bring him proper benefit or adequate benefit. Rather, savings instruments which are issued by the government, those will give him a secure investment benefit. So he will be receiving 84,87,000. That is the one-time payment he will be receiving. However, we have said here that Taka 8 lakh is actually outstanding to the government because he took money from the government as car loan and he bought a car with that amount. And he was paying off the government on a monthly basis. And at the end of his service, he sees that 8,000 taka is still outstanding to the government. So that's why he has to pay it off at the time of his retirement. So the amount that he is receiving, that is 84,87,000, that would be deducted by that amount, meaning that 8 lakh taka would be deducted from that figure, and afterwards he will be receiving the rest of the amount. So there is another solution. And another problem here is that he has also received 1 crore taka from the Provident Fund. So that amount of taka is the contribution he has made to the Provident Fund, because in the government service, the government does not contribute to the Provident Fund. Rather, the employee contributes to the Provident Fund. The amount is your contribution to the Provident Fund and the interest that is accrued on that deposit or on that contribution. So the rate of interest sometimes varies. It is decided by the government. Sometimes it is 12.5%, sometimes it is 13%. And once upon a time, that was also 14%, something like that. So it depends on the government. So the government actually pays interest. So now we have seen that he has received an amount of taka 1 crore, and that is equivalent to the deposit that has been made by the employee and the interest accrued thereon. So it has been said that he has received 10 lakh taka more than what is actually due to him from the Provident Fund. So what is that? It is not the actual amount that he should receive. Rather, he has received an extra amount apart from the actual amount to be due to him. So there is a treatment for this. This is as per Income Tax Ordinance 1984. This is profit in lieu of salary. Whenever you have received an amount which is in addition to your contribution to the Provident Fund plus the interest accrued thereon. So if you receive something extra, then it will be treated as profit in lieu of salary. And that will also be taxed under Section 21 of the IT Ordinance 1984. So that's why this has to be taxed by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, and he has to pay tax on that, while his income will be calculated under Section 21. So these are the solutions to the problems we have mentioned in this question 1. So if you go to the next question, that is also related to an employee. An officer of Bangladesh Jute Mills Corporation was granted deputation for 3 years to study master's program and MPhil in a foreign university. The Jute Mills Corporation is under the Ministry of Jute and Textile, and the Ministry of Jute and Textile, it has granted deputation to the concerned officer, and he went abroad in order to do a master's program and an MPhil in a foreign university, maybe in the UK. And he did not come to Bangladesh during this period. That means he did not come to Bangladesh during the 3-year period. When he came back to Bangladesh, he submitted individual returns for 3 years together. The DCT imposed penalty and delay interest for late submission of the returns. He sought your advice as a chartered accountant to redress the suffering. Advise him properly. So, first of all, you have to know when the DCT can impose penalty for non-submission of the return, or when he can impose delay interest. So what the DCT has done, whether it is okay or not, whether it is as per law or not, that we have to decide first. And when an individual has to submit a return, submit his return, there is, of course, a specific time for submission of the return. And you know very well that 30th day of November is the tax day by which you have to submit the return as an individual. But you can get the time extended for 2 months upon submission of an application to the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. He can extend it for 2 months. But if you need some more time, of course, the date could again be extended by another 2 months. And I believe in this case, the DCT cannot do that. DCT can get it done with the approval of the inspecting Joint Commissioner or inspecting Additional Commissioner of Taxes. But time could be extended for another 2 months. So in all, the time could be extended for 4 months. So that is the usual way of extending the time. But otherwise, you have to submit the return by the 30th day of November. That means any day before the 30th day of November or on the 30th day of November. So which starts from the 1st day of July of the assessment year. So here, this officer who went abroad to study masters and MPhil, he was granted deputation by the Ministry of Jute and Textile. And that's why he was abroad for 3 years. And during that period, he did not come back to Bangladesh for submission of his returns. So he came to Bangladesh after 3 years and he submitted returns for 3 years together. So in that case, whether law allows him to submit the return for 3 years together or not, that is the question. So you have to see as per income tax ordinance whether the law supports him or not. So if you go to section 75, you will see what is the provision there. When you have to submit the return and whether you can extend the time for submission of the return and the benefits that you will be having out of the submission of the return under section 75. You know that 75 section is very important for an individual because this section actually gives some benefits to the SSC after he submits his return during that period. So this is voluntary submission of the return. That means if you think that you are liable to pay taxes during the income year, in that case you can submit the return, but you will of course voluntarily submit the return. When you see that your taxable income is there or you have crossed the general exemption limit, if you cross the general exemption limit, you have to submit the return yourself. Then you can get the benefits of self-assessment scheme, meaning that you can submit your return under section 82BB, and in that case, you don't have to wait for hearing or no notice will be served upon you. Rather, the receipt that will be given to you at the time of submission of the return would be treated as your assessment. So you will calculate your own income and you will calculate your own tax and you will pay the tax yourself. So that is the usual way of submission of return under the self-assessment scheme, which is always beneficial to you. And a question will be asked generally if something is not found out which is prejudicial to the interest of revenue. So if you do not show something prejudicial to the interest of revenue, then you will not be asked any question. But of course, there is a provision that audit could be conducted on the incomes of the people if the National Board of Revenue thinks so, and that is done on the basis of sampling. That means the self-assessment schemes that have been received by the National Board of Revenue, and out of that maybe 5% or maybe 6% would be selected for audit. That is also for, preventing any evasion of tax, etc., or maybe avoidance of tax, and ultimately evasion of tax, or any source of income which was earlier shown but not shown this time because of some reasons, or there could be some other issues relating to the non-submission of the sources of income. So there could be some reasons why the audit could be conducted on the incomes of some people, but it is not in general. It is applicable to a certain percentage of the people submitting the self-assessment returns. So here in this case, this gentleman, he came back to Bangladesh and submitted the returns for the 3 years together. This is applicable. This is allowable. It is allowed under Section 75. Whenever a person is granted deputation or is granted lien, and he goes abroad in order to study or for training purposes and comes back to Bangladesh, he can submit the return after his arrival in Bangladesh within 3 months' time. And he can submit the returns for 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is at a time. So he has done this. And the law actually permits him to submit the return in that way. So DCT, if he does not accept it, or if he penalizes the SSA, it is not actually proper in the eye of law. It is not legal in the eye of law. So that's why the DCT did not do the right thing. So since the SSC has come to you to seek your advice, you can advise him to prefer an appeal against the decision given by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So if he prefers an appeal, in that case, appellate authority would definitely relieve him of the penalties or other fines, etc., whatever it is, or the injustice that has been done to him by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So that is the answer to this question. I believe you understand all this, or you have gone through all these problems in the past. And it's also a good question to ask you by the examiner. Then we can go to question number 3. Question number 3, here it has been said that a doctor purchased a medical equipment for his chamber and used it for 5 years. The equipment was purchased at Taka 5 lakh. The doctor showed the cost of the equipment after judging depreciation at the rate of 10% on straight line basis. After 5 years, the doctor decided to replace the equipment with a more advanced one. The written down value was Taka 2,50,000. He disposed of the equipment at Taka 5,50,000. Advised the doctor the effect of sale on his income for tax calculation. So what is said here is that the doctor was using an equipment which was actually necessary for his profession. And he purchased the equipment at Taka 5 lakhs and he used it for 5 years. And a straight line depreciation was charged on that amount. So 10% depreciation means 50,000 Taka was charged every year. So 5 years he used it. So the total depreciation that was charged during the 5 years was taka 2,50,000. Now the written down value was taka 2,50,000. And then this doctor has decided to sell it off to somebody else because he needs one more advanced one. The equipment maybe was purchased 5 years ago. Now he wants to replace it with a new advanced one. So for that purpose, he has disposed of his existing equipment at taka 5,50,000. So this is the sale value, or this is the sale proceed he is earning because of the disposal of the equipment. So now we have to find out the impact on the income of the SSE. That means what type of income he is deriving now, whether he is deriving professional income, business income, or any other income apart from that. So here, the sale proceed of taka 5,50,000 is to be taken into account because the written down value is taka 2,50,000 and your sale proceed is taka 5,50,000. So the profit is taka 3 lakh. And out of that, whether the full amount is business profit or professional income or something else. So here it has been said, that means you can relate it to section 1916. So in section 1916, it has been said that the equipment, plant, machinery, building, etc., which has been used for business or professional purposes has been disposed of. The sale proceed, if the sale proceed exceeds the written down value, there would be a profit, of course. But so much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value would be business income or professional income. So here the profit is 3 lakh. And another condition is that so much of the excess. That means if the sale proceed exceeds the written down value. Yes, it has exceeded the written down value by taka 3 lakhs. Now, so much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value. Original cost is taka 5 lakh. And the written down value is taka 2,50,000, as you have understood it from the problem. So much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value. So what is the difference between the original cost and the written down value? This is 2,50,000 because 5 lakh taka purchase price and 2,50,000 taka written down value. So the difference between the two is 2,50,000. So much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value. So up to taka 2,50,000, this will be treated as business income. And the additional amount, because the total profit is taka 3 lakh. So the additional amount is taka 50,000, and that 50,000 taka would be treated as capital gain, because this cannot be treated as business profit or professional income. Rather, it should be treated as capital gain. So taka 50,000 would be treated as capital gain under section 31, read with section 1916. And the other amount, that is 2,50,000, that would be treated as income from business or profession under section 28, read with section 1916. So these are the two incomes that would be shown in the assessment order to be framed by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. So here, capital gain is not mentioned in the section. If you read section 1916, you will not find the mention of capital gain, but it is implied. So it has been said about the business profit or professional income, and the rest of the profit would be treated as capital gain. So that is the answer to this problem, or solution to the problem. Then come to question number 4. Mr. X was running a pharmacy at a place in Lakhi Bazar, Dhaka. The pharmacy was constructed by the side of a road which was narrow and needed to be widened. The city corporation decided to demolish the pharmacy. However, the city corporation paid a compensation of Taka 20 lakh to Mr. X. The building was constructed at a cost of Taka 12 lakh 10 years ago. The trader charged depreciation at the rate of 10% each year. After demolishment, the scraps, including old bricks, rods, etc., was sold out at Taka 1 lakh. What would be the effect of the demolishment of the pharmacy on the income of Mr. X? So here is also a similar type of question as we have asked in the previous problem. So here the person is the owner of a pharmacy, but it was in a place where it was by the side of a road, and the city corporation decided to widen the road. So that's why the pharmacy was demolished. However, the city corporation gave the person concerned a compensation, which was Taka 20 lakhs. So this is actually related to section 1918. 1918, if you read it, you will see that when you receive some compensation money or insurance value because of the demolishment or destruction of the asset which has been used in the business or profession, so the amount you have received as salvage money or insurance money or compensation money, and if that amount exceeds the written down value, so much of the excess as it does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value, less the scrap value, would be treated as your business income or professional income. And any amount beyond that or apart from that would be treated as your capital gain. So that is the calculation. So here what you see is that the building was constructed at 12 lakh taka 10 years ago. And in the meantime, depreciation has been charged at the rate of 10%. So Taka 12 lakh has already been charged, meaning that the written down value is 0. However, because of the demolishment of the pharmacy, the city corporation has given you an amount of compensation, which is Taka 20 lakhs. So this Taka 20 lakh exceeds the written down value. Written down value is 0, so your profit is Taka 20 lakhs. But if it exceeds the written down value, then so much of the excess as does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value. Original cost and the written down value less the scrap value. So original cost is 12 lakh taka, written down value is 0, less scrap value is 1 lakh. So written down value is 0 minus, one moment please. Hello. 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 কালকে সকালে দিবে বলছে। না না একটু পরে পরে আর হবে না, সকালে ওটা নিয়ে নেবেন এসে। অভ্যাস আর কি, দেখেন আমি বলছি তাকে সকালে অবশ্যই যেন দিয়ে দেয়। নিয়ে নেবেন, আদায় করে নেবেন সকাল। হ্যাঁ, শিওর শিওর। না, ওইটা আবার রিফাইন করতে হবে আর কি। সো দ্যাটস হোয়াই হি নিডস টু শো ইট। আমি বলছিলাম যে আজকে দেখিয়ে ফেলেন, আজকে দেখিয়ে ফেললে আপনার ফাইন টিউনিং করতে লাগলে আপনি করলেন রাত্রে, এটাই বলেছিলাম। ওকে, ঠিক আছে। বসেন, হবে হবে। So as we said is that the compensation money what we have received here, 20 lakhs taka, and it has exceeded the written down value by taka 20 lakhs. So this is the profit, and the original cost is 12 lakh and written down value is 0. So what we should do is that so much of the excesses does not exceed the difference between the original cost and the written down value less the scrap value. So scrap value is 1 lakh. So it should be deducted from 0. So it means minus 1 lakh, and minus 1 lakh. That is, we have to now calculate the difference between the original cost and this figure. So if we deduct minus 1 lakh from 12 lakhs, it should be 13 lakhs. So that is the profit, and there is a business profit. And the rest amount, that is 7 lakh, as we calculated earlier, 20 lakhs taka. So 7 lakh taka would be the capital gains. So these are the figures we have to calculate here, and we have to refer to section 1918. And here also section 21 is involved, sorry, 31 is involved because of the capital gain. And another income is involved here, which relates to income from business or profession under section 28. So the DCT would write both the incomes in the assessment order while he frames it. Okay. So we can now move to question number 5. Mr. X is a retired government servant. He was allotted a piece of land by the government. He started building a house, taking loan from a bank. The loan amount was 30 lakhs. That was the loan given by the bank to the person concerned. After the construction work started, it took him 2 years to complete the construction. So it means that the construction was not completed in 1 year's time. So the person concerned actually took 2 years' time to complete the construction. And in the meantime, since he took a loan from the bank was charging interest on that amount. So I believe it has been said here that the interest charged by the bank each year was 3 lakh. So during the 2-year period, the bank actually charged him 6 lakhs as interest on the loan. And simultaneously, while construction was work started, Mr. X purchased construction materials from a shop in Nagpur worth 10 lakhs. That means he also purchased some building materials from Nagpur Road, which was worth 10 lakhs. So that was outstanding. He could not pay off that liability. So that's why at the end of the 3 years, the construction was completed and started receiving 1 lakh taka as rent from a tenant. So at the end of the 3 years, the person actually completed the construction work and he rented it out to a person, to a tenant. And he received 1 lakh per month from that tenant. he had received an amount of 10 lakh from the tenant and nothing was said about the repayment of the amount. While he rented out the apartment or building to a tenant, he took 10 lakhs from him, but nothing was said about the repayment of that amount. Assume some dates of your own and show the effect of these dealings on the income of the person as a short suggestion from here. Now here are some problems, what we have discussed so far, and we have sought your advice and how to advise him. That is your wise decision that you will give him, what he should do, what problems he already has, and how to solve those problems, how the income would be calculated by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes, all this. So here, what are the problems you are finding? Number one problem is he has taken a loan after 30 lakhs from the bank, and the bank has charged 3 lakh taka each year. So maybe for 3 years, he could not actually generate any income from his property. So at the end of the third year, he actually started generating income. That means 1 lakh taka he was receiving as rental value of the property. So annual value of the property could be 12 lakh taka. That could be the annual value of the property, which will be taken into account at the time of calculation of income from house property under section 24. So that is his income. And while calculating the income from house property, you have to find out the annual value first. Then from the annual value, you have to deduct some of the expenditures, allowances, etc., like repairs, like maintenance, like Darwan's salary, like rent, taxes, interest on borrowed capital, etc., etc. So these are the these are the expenses or allowances to be allowed under section 25 of the IT Ordinance 1984. So here in this case, bank charged him interest for 2 years or maybe 3 years, because whenever he started receiving rental income, it was after 3 years. So definitely bank has charged him 3 lakh taka each year. So for the 3 years, bank charged him 9 lakh taka. And when he started receiving income from the property, that means the building or apartment, then he would be given an opportunity. That means the amount that was charged by the bank and which was not paid by himself, that would be spread over the first 3 years of income generation. That means whenever he started receiving income for the first 3 years, the amount which was not paid by him, that means the interest which was not paid by him to the bank, would be spread or would be allocated over the first 3 years, so that he can pay from the income generated from the tenant. And another point here is that he bought some building materials from a shop in Nagpur worth taka 10 lakh, which was also unpaid or outstanding. So that amount, if it has been unpaid for 2 years, at the end of the period, that means after the expiry of the 2 years, that would be treated as your income from other sources. That means if you do not pay off that liability within 2 years' time, then after the expiry of the say 2 years, that figure would be treated as your income from other source under section 33. So that would be assessed to tax by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. Okay. And I believe that these are the problems related to this question. So if you can solve all these problems, then the answer is given by you. Sorry, another question is here. That is 10 lakh taka he has received from the tenant at the time of signing the lease agreement, maybe. So that was not mentioned in the agreement or lease deed, how that will be paid off or how that will be adjusted. So if you receive such an amount from the tenant, it will be treated as an income, which is not part of the rental income, but that would be treated as your income from house property. And the relevant section is here. When it is not adjustable against the rent, the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes can treat that amount as income from house property, but there is an option. The option is that you can ask the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes or request the city, or you can apply to him to spread or to allocate that amount of money over the entire lease period. But if your lease period is for more than 5 years, then the allocation or the allotment of that amount would be within that period. That is within 5 years' time, not over 5 years' time. So the meaning is that whenever such an amount is received by him, in that case, that amount could be assessed in 1 year by the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes. But if he requests the Deputy Commissioner of Taxes to allocate it over the entire period of the lease, he can take it into account, or what he can do, he will allocate that amount over a period of 5 years, not more than that. So if your lease period is 5 years, then he can allocate that amount, that is taka 10 lakh would be allocated over 5 years period. So each year, taka 2 lakh would be treated as your income. So in that way, over the 5-year period, the entire 10 lakh taka would be assessed to tax. If you look at the next question here, number 6, what is the nature of liquidated damages received by a company from the supplier of plant for failure to supply machinery to the company within the stipulated time, a capital receipt or a revenue receipt? So what is meant by liquidated damages? Liquidated damages means predetermined value as a compensation for failure of supply of a machinery or plant. It means that you have come into a contract with a particular person or particular company for the supply of a machinery, maybe. And there is a time frame within which he has to supply the machinery to you. So for example, you will just start a cement mill or any other mill. And for that, you needed a machinery to be supplied to you from a company, but the company could not supply it in due time. So you fail to generate income from the cement mill. And that's why you claim a compensation from that company which failed to supply the machinery to you. So the amount that you will be claiming from him will be treated as liquidated damages. This will be treated as liquidated damages. So whenever you are claiming a liquidated damages or you have received a liquidated damage, then it will be treated as what? That is the question. Will it be treated as a capital receipt or a revenue receipt? That is the question. So this will be treated as a capital receipt in the hands of the SSC. So since it is a capital receipt, it will not be taxed. So this is related to a case, that is a High Court case, Supreme Court case. And the name of the case is Saurashtra Cement Limited. Saurashtra Cement Limited. So the Supreme Court held that the damages were directly and ultimately linked with the procurement of capital asset. That is the cement plant, which lead to delay in coming into existence of the profit-making apparatus. That means the company or the SSC needed an equipment or a machinery, and which did not come into existence during the stipulated period. So that's why he could not make a profit-making venture. So it was not a receipt in the course of profit earning process. So it was not a profit earning process. Therefore, the amount received by the SSC towards compensation or sterilization of the profit earning source is not in the ordinary course of the business. Hence, it is a capital receipt in the hands of the SSC. So this was not actually in the ordinary course of the business, rather it was something different, and it was a capital receipt. Because the machinery was not supplied and because of the non-delivery of the machinery, the supplying company was bound to pay a compensation to the SSC. So that's why this compensation money was treated as a capital receipt. So you can refer to this case as I have mentioned to you. The next question, what is the nature of grant received by a subsidiary company from its holding company to recoup the losses incurred year after year and to enable it to meet its obligations or liabilities, capital or revenue? So here is also the question, when a holding company gives subsidy to a subsidiary company or a grant to a subsidiary company in order to recoup the losses incurred by the subsidiary company year after year. And the grant was actually given to the subsidiary company to meet its liabilities. So this kind of grant, as has been received by the subsidiary company, whether it would be treated as a capital receipt or a revenue receipt. That is the question. Miedo. So here, this is also a High Court case. And the name of the case is Handicrafts and Handlooms Export Corporation of India Limited. So this is a High Court case. The High Court observed that in all the years, it was the case of a 100% holding company coming to the rescue of its subsidiary, which requires the nature of subsidy to be decided on the basis for which the subsidy was given. So what is said here is that subsidy is given to the company by the holding company. But what is the nature of the subsidy? Why subsidy has been given? The High Court held that grant given by the holding company in this case is in the nature of capital receipt, since its purpose is to secure and protect the capital investment made in the subsidiary company. So the holding company has made an investment in the subsidiary company. Now, since the subsidiary company is incurring losses, so that's why the holding company is giving grants to the subsidiary company in order to recoup the losses. So this is in the nature of capital receipt. Hence, this amount is not to be treated as a revenue receipt, rather as a capital receipt. So you can refer to the High Court case here, and that is called Handicrafts and Handlooms Export Corporation of India Limited. It's a High Court case. Then come to the next question, that is, can power subsidy received by the SSE from the government year after year on the basis of actual power consumption be treated as a capital receipt? Can power subsidy received by the SSE from the government year after year on the basis of actual power consumption be treated as a capital receipt or not? This is also a High Court case, which is called Rashi Cement Limited. Rashi Cement Limited. And Andhra Pradesh High Court actually gave decision on this. The power subsidy received by the SSE from the government on the basis of actual power consumption has to be treated as a trading receipt and not as a capital receipt. So these should be treated as a trading receipt, not as a capital receipt. So the High Court decided like that, and it was on the basis of the actual power consumption. The subsidy was given on the basis of the actual power consumption. Next question, number 9. In case the share capital is raised in a foreign country and repatriated to Bangladesh on need basis from time to time for approved uses, and the gain arises on the balance sheet date due to fluctuation in foreign currency, foreign exchange, in respect of that part of the share capital which is to be used as working capital, be treated as a revenue receipt. So the issue is, capital is raised in a foreign country. It is being repatriated to Bangladesh on need basis from time to time for approved uses, of course, by the company. And can the gain arising on the balance sheet date due to fluctuation in foreign exchange in respect of that part of the share capital which is to be used as working capital be treated as a revenue receipt? So whenever that money is coming to Bangladesh and that part of the capital which is being used as working capital, but there was a fluctuation in foreign exchange, and because of the fluctuation there was a figure, profit figure arose out of that. And in that case, whether that would be treated as a revenue receipt or not? That is the question. So the answer would be the capital raised, whether in Bangladesh or not, can be utilized both for the purposes of acquiring fixed asset and to meet other expenses of the organization, because capital could be used for anything. Whenever I raise the capital, I can use it for purchasing plant, machinery, etc., or building, or I can use that amount for meeting other expenditure as working capital. So for determining the nature of receipts, the consideration should be given to the source of fund and not to the ultimate use of the fund. So here we should stress on consideration should be given to the source of the fund, how the fund actually arose. That means how we could get the fund. The fund we got by raising share capital. That was the source of the fund, and not to the ultimate use of the fund. We should not think of the use of the fund. Rather, we should think of the source of the fund. High Court therefore held that the entire gain has to be treated as capital receipt, as the source of fund in this case is capital in nature. So it is capital in nature. The High Court actually decided in that way. So we have to stress on the source of the fund, not to the use of the fund. So that is the main thing you have to take into account. Then come to the next question. Can subsidy received by the SSC from the government of Bangladesh under the scheme of industrial promotion for expansion of its capacities, modernization, and improving its marketing capabilities be treated as a capital receipt? So subsidy is given by the government of Bangladesh under the scheme of industrial promotion for expansion of its capacities, its modernization, and improving its marketing capabilities, whether that could be treated as capital receipt. So this is also a High Court case, of course, we can refer it. And, the name of the case is Rashoi Limited, Calcutta High Court case. The object of the subsidy is to enable the SSC to run the business more profitably. That means it is for promotional purposes. Promotional purposes means if you spend some money for promotional purposes, it means that you can make more profit. The receipt is a revenue receipt. On the other hand, if the object of assistance is to enable the SSC to set up a new unit or to expand an existing unit, the receipt would be a capital receipt. So you have to see the nature of the subsidy. The nature of the subsidy, you have to look at the object, why it was given. It was given just for meeting expenditure so that the company could gain some more profit, promotional purposes. So it was not for having a new plant or having an addition to the existing plant of the business. So that's why the objective is of trading nature. So that's why it is a trading receipt, not a revenue receipt. Then come to the next question. What is the nature of incentive received under the scheme formulated by the government for recoupment of capital employed and repayment of loans taken for setting up expansion of a sugar factory, capital or revenue? Incentive received under the scheme formulated by the government for recoupment of capital employed and repayment of loans taken for setting up or expansion of a sugar factory, capital or revenue. So this is also a High Court case. Kishan Shahkari Chini Mills Limited. Kishan Shahkari Chini Mills Limited. In that case, the apex court held that the main eligibility condition for the scheme was that the incentive had to be utilized for the repayment of loans taken by the SSC to set up a new unit or substantial expansion of an existing unit. The subsidy received by the SSC was therefore not in the course of a trade and hence was of capital nature. So the scheme was that incentive had to be utilized for the repayment of the loans taken by the SSC to set up a new unit or substantial expansion of the existing unit so that the company could be run more profitably. There could be volume of expansion, volume of production, etc. Because of the additional plant, additional plant could generate more production so that the company would be able to run in a profitable way. So this was not of trading nature. The receipt was not of trading nature, rather it was of capital nature. Then number 13, and the expenditure incurred for the purchase of second-hand medical equipment for use as spare parts for existing equipment be claimed as revenue expenditure. Second-hand machinery, second-hand spare part. I think this is medical equipment, second-hand medical equipment that was for use as spare parts for existing equipment. In that case, whether it would be treated as a revenue receipt or capital receipt. This can also be referred to a High Court case. This is a decision given by the Karnataka High Court in the case of Dr. Ashok N. Rao. Since the second-hand machinery purchased by the SSC for use as spare parts or the existing old machinery, the same had to be allowed as revenue expenditure because this is a spare part, not something which added value to the machinery or that was part of the machinery. Rather, that was a spare part. Since the entire sale consideration was paid, it's not needed for you. Rather, if we can say that if the spare part could be used as part of the machinery and depreciation could be charged on the total value of the machinery after the introduction of the new spare part. In that case, it would constitute the value of the machinery and depreciation could be charged on that. In that case, this will not be treated as a revenue expenditure. So in that case, it could have been different, but here the second-hand medical equipment has been used as a spare part, which is not part of the machinery for depreciation purposes. So that's why this is a capital receipt or capital expenditure, but not a revenue, not a capital. Sorry, this is a revenue receipt, not and a revenue expenditure, not as a capital receipt or capital expenditure. That's the decision given by the Karnataka High Court. Okay, then one question we have skipped. Would expenditure incurred on feasibility study conducted for examining proposals for technological advancement relating to the existing business be classified as a revenue expenditure where the project was abandoned without creating a new asset? That is a question, and this is also a High Court case, of course, and this is a Delhi High Court case. And the name of the case is Priya Village Roadshows Limited. Priya Village Roadshows Limited. Here, the feasibility study was conducted by the SSC for the existing business with a common administration and common fund. And the studies were abandoned without creating a new asset. The expenses were of revenue nature. Because there was an existing company, existing plant was there. So another feasibility study was conducted from the same fund. Same fund means the same administration. It was not a new equipment or plant that was to be established by the company. Rather, it was part of the existing plant. And hence, the value that was spent for conducting the feasibility study, that was a revenue expenditure, not a capital expenditure. Adab, bye. Office. So we have discussed it about the feasibility study, and that was from a common fund and common administration. So that's why it was abandoned later on. So the expenditure incurred was of revenue nature. So that's why it was not a capital receipt. Okay, then we come to the next point. An expenditure incurred on alteration of a dam to ensure adequate supply of water for the smaller plant owned by the SSC be allowed as revenue expenditure. So this is an expenditure incurred on alteration of a dam to ensure adequate supply of water for smaller plant owned by the SSC. Whether this could be allowed as revenue expenditure or not. So this is also a High Court case. We would see Hindustan Zinc Limited. So this is the decision given by the Rajasthan High Court. So the High Court said that the expenditure incurred by the SSC for commercial expediency relates to carrying on of business. The expenditure is of such nature which a prudent businessman may incur for the purpose of his business. The operational expenses incurred by the SSC solely intended for the furtherance of the enterprise can by no means be treated as expenditure of capital nature. So this is an operational expense incurred by the SSC solely intended for furtherance of the enterprise, which can no means be treated as expenditure of capital nature. So this would be treated as a revenue expenditure, and hence the High Court held like that. And then question number 15. Can the commission paid to doctors by a diagnostic center for referring patients for diagnosis be allowed as a business expenditure under Section 29, or would it be treated as illegal and against public policy to attract disallowance? So commission paid to doctors by a diagnostic center. You will find so many diagnostic centers in the country which are paying commission to the doctors for referring patients to their diagnostic centers for various pathological reports or other examinations. So if such a commission is given to the doctors, whether the diagnostic center can claim it as an allowable expenditure under Section 29 of the IT Ordinance 1984, or it would be treated as disallowable expenditure. That is the question. You can think of it and answer